So now I have sun coming in through the window, causes some strange effect maybe. People who advise you professionally how to do these podcasts tell you all about light and this and that, but obviously I'm not paying attention to all the aesthetics. Hopefully the lessons are very clear in the podcast and you can focus on that. Okay, so we looked at the Bretherton diagram for the Earth system where we showed external forcing humans on one end and all the physical systems, atmosphere, ocean, soil, chemistry in the middle. Um, there was a program called International Human Dimensions which tried to assemble these things and say there is something we have to worry beyond just the Earth system feedbacks. We have to make human beings an integral part of this Earth system because now we are a big force. We're an external force. So they tried to combine the natural sciences and the social sciences. So the natural sciences are physics, chemistry, math, biology, which includes weather, climate, medicine, and so on. So natural resource sciences would worry about resources, environment, ecosystems, biosphere, and so on. Social sciences, which are often referred to as soft sciences, actually are at the forefront of dealing with the climate impacts and implementing climate policies or adaptation to climate change and impacts of mitigation actions or how to bring about mitigation actions and so on and so forth. So they are doing all the hard work now, right? So the idea was to combine this and look at the human dimension of this whole Earth system. So they were looking at the intersections in terms of impacts of the natural sciences on social sciences and the feedbacks of the social sciences onto the natural sciences. This is like climate change happens, people move, conflicts happen. There are many conflicts now that can be attributed. Remember the word attribution now. Can be attributed to climate change impacts on water and agriculture, employment, and so on, heat waves, etc. Okay? So they look at drivers going from socioeconomic structures, institutions, and economic incentives to reduce energy usage or increase energy usage, selling things that are bad for the environment, reducing the use of things that are bad for the environment, and so on. And those affect the choices, the decisions, and the human behavior. Okay, so all the commercial entities, including the little commercials they make for the kids, for women, for men, for gays, for heterosexuals, for metrosexuals, everything is done based on research of human behavior, how the brain responds to audio-visual cues on how to spend your money. Okay, and those are often related to cultural values, cultural beliefs, and worldviews. You can easily make a comparison of Europe as a broad spectrum of people versus the US, and the response Europe generates when climate change impacts are shown versus how US reacts can be very starkly different because those cultures have evolved over the last couple of centuries to respond to cues in a very different way. The question of whether you trust the government or you don't trust the government and so on can make a huge difference. So this is the human system. IHDP, human dimensions, geosphere, biosphere, those kind of international projects which were typically run under the so-called Council of Scientific Union, ICSU, are now modified and kind of consolidated into something called Future Earth, which focuses on sustainability. So Future Earth is a global network of scientists, researchers, and innovators collaborating for a more sustainable planet. Sustainability is a buzzword. It's not always well defined. Not everybody accepts it as a very solid concept, but nonetheless, I think everybody has an intuitive sense what it means. Not always easy to go from the definition of sustainability to policy or rules and regulations, but that's a different discussion. So Future Earth looks to facilitate research and innovation. It tries to build and mobilize networks of institutions, governments, communities, countries, and so on, and shape the global narrative of climate change, human impacts on the planet, the environmental change, and how to bring about sustainability. Okay, basically, we have to navigate the trajectory we are on to avoid irreversible bad outcomes. Right? We don't want to go in a place where we cannot find our way back to a happy life. Right? We like to use energy, but the forms of energy we use now are not good for the environment. So how do we go about changing those things? You can simply think of it as energy density of the GDP of each country, how much energy per unit of GDP is used, and how much carbon is used to generate each unit of energy. So carbon intensity of the energy sources and energy intensity of the GDP. Everybody wants to grow the GDP. Can you do it without increased use of energy? And can you produce more energy without increased use of carbon-based fossil fuels, and so on, right? So these are the human systems which have to be considered together with the physical system that we keep talking about. So we will look more and more at these kind of interplays between human values, human demands, human behaviors, and how it inevitably affects the environment itself in which we live and we want to continue to live.